Look, over there! It's a nerd! It's a film critic! It's the Dan Man! The Scorpion King came out in 2002, directed by Chuck Russell, who also directed Nightmare 3, the '88 remake of The Blob, and Jim Carrey in The Mask. And some may ask the question, well, wasn't the Scorpion King just that asshole that ate a scorpion in the desert and became a CG piece of crap at the end of The Mummy Returns? Well, yes, he was. And that CG piece of crap spun off into its own film franchise that became the debut of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as an actor. And even though he was in The Mummy Returns for a little bit, he really didn't get that time to show his personality. But in 2002, he would be given a whole film to himself and show the world that he had what it took to become the mountain that he is today. So let's throw these cinematic leftovers in that nostalgic microwave and smell what The Rock was cooking 20 years ago. This movie starts with this guy bragging about how he's killed all these other warrior races. But then once he's killed this guy, they'll become the master race of warriors. Meanwhile, The Rock is outside scaling the building carrying a giant rock that he uses to break into the place and fog his appearance and shoot people with arrows that launch them out of the building. After tearing the place up, the title credits roll, and we're introduced to the film's antagonist, Memnon, who became king of the land because he's the biggest dick in the world. And because this is a historically efficient means of ruling a monarchy, there's a bunch of people out in the desert plotting to kill that dick Memnon sorcerer that can see into the future. But Michael Clark Duncan voices some doubts on this plan, and some guy tells him to shut his mouth. So Michael Clark Duncan makes him look like the little bitch he is. And then The Rock shows up with his crew, offering to take the job of killing that dick Memnon sorcerer. Later that night, they sneak into Memnon's camp, and The Rock meets the film's comedic relief. But as they're making their way, The Rock realizes that they're walking into a trap, and he bails. But his homies were too slow, and they get got. While The Rock tries to make his escape, he encounters a sorcerer, who is revealed to be a sorceress. But The Rock is quickly found and apprehended, and that dick Memnon kills his brother right in front of him. A decision I'm sure he will regret by the end of this film. But when that dick Memnon goes to kill The Rock, the sorceress tells him that to do so will bring him great misfortune, a fact known by movie studios today. So that dick Memnon makes other plans for The Rock, and then he establishes how he wants dat ass. But the sorceress tells him that if he gets dat ass, then she will lose her fortune-telling abilities. And he assures her that one day he won't need her fortune-telling abilities, making him not just a dick, but a creep. The Rock comes to, buried up to his neck with the film's comedic relief, and left to be eaten alive by a horde of CG ants. But that dick Memnon underestimated the value of comedic relief in a movie, as he escapes and saves The Rock, on the condition that he take him on his further adventures and share in the rewards. A decision I am sure they will both regret later. With his newfound freedom, The Rock summons his camel just like in The Witcher, and then declares revenge on that dick Memnon for being such a huge dick. And then they head to the city, where they meet the rest of this film's cast, being a thieving child and an old man inventor, who lead him to that dick Memnon, on the condition that he kills him. Because being a huge dick is an efficient means of ruling a monarchy. And so, with that dick Memnon in his sights, The Rock takes aim, but that thieving child gets caught, and The Rock has to decide whether to save the kid or kill that dick and end this movie. But we have an hour of runtime left and he's the protagonist. So The Rock saves the kid, and a wacky chase scene ensues, where The Rock goes back to the old man inventor and finds a catapult that the old man states was a failed means of transportation, where he couldn't get the landings quite right. But his prior victims weren't The Rock, and he launches himself into Memnon's harem, where a bunch of hoes jack his shit, and we get more wacky shenanigans, until The Rock stumbles his way into the sorceress's bath chamber, where they escape through the drain that's big enough for the both of them to fit through. Then cut to a kid who wishes to see a fine pair of titties.
Gods be praised!
The Rock and crew make their escape and head for the Valley of the Dead. But that dick Memnon ain't having it, and sends his man out with an arrow laced with the venom of a scorpion to get his chick back. But these were futile attempts, as they face The Rock and he murders all of them. But before The Rock could kill that dick's man, he stabs him with a poison arrow. Having earned her respect, the sorceress saves The Rock.
The poison was made with scorpion venom. If he does live, the blood of the scorpion will always flow through his veins.
That's fucking metal as fuck, dude!
The next day, they find the elderly inventor, who's out in the desert blowing shit up. And then they get found by Michael Clark Duncan's crew, and are brought back to his camp, where he states that he neither likes nor trusts The Rock, and they throw down in a test of manitude. But they prove to be evenly matched, and Michael Clark Duncan asks The Rock if he would stand alone against that dick Memnon and his armies, where The Rock stoically claims, yes. Impressed by this recent display of manliness, they throw a huge rager, and the sorceress has some messed up visions, and she confesses to The Rock that dick Memnon had enslaved her as a child, making him not only a creepy dick, but a child groomer. So the sorceress bails in the middle of the night to go back to that dick Memnon, and The Rock ain't having it, and tries to go after her, but Michael Clark Duncan stops him, and says that he will not have to stand alone against that dick Memnon. Meanwhile, at that dick's palace, they're throwing a party of their own, and some guy calls that dick Memnon out for his chick having bailed on him. But conveniently as he's doing this, the sorceress shows up, essentially killing that guy. Convinced of her V-card being punched, that dick Memnon tests the fortune-telling abilities of the sorceress by making her play a game of Egyptian Russian roulette, where they put snakes in jars instead of using guns with bullets. Meanwhile, The Rock and crew break into that dick Memnon's palace and set up their plan of attack. But having enough of his shit, the sorceress decides to pull a CG snake out and throw it in that dick Memnon's face. And then The Rock shows up, and him and that dick finally face off. But that dick Memnon proves that he's better at playing swords, and it kicks The Rock down. And some guy gets cocky thinking he can finish The Rock off with an arrow, but the sorceress tries to dive in and take the arrow for him. But The Rock ain't having that, and he turns around and takes the arrow in the shoulder anyway. And with the power of his manliness, The Rock pulls the arrow out of his shoulder and shoots that creepy child-grooming dick Memnon so bad that he catches on fire. Having beaten that dick Memnon and proving his to be the bigger, The Rock is officially declared the Scorpion King. And it's a happy ending for everyone. And the sorceress foresees an era of peace. And then The Rock asks her about losing her fortune-telling abilities with the virginity thing, and where she admits that this was just a ruse to keep that creepy child-grooming dick at arm's length. You go, girl. And then the credits roll, and the film's theme song starts playing, I Stand Alone by Godsmack. Because he said the thing that one time that he didn't actually do throughout the entirety of this movie. The Scorpion King was a moderate success at the box office. In fact, it was successful enough to warrant making 4 more movies, all of which were straight to video, but none of which would include The Rock, who moved on to bigger things, and the Scorpion King role was recast. But still, we're not done with the Scorpion King. As of 2020, it was announced that a reboot was on the way, with The Rock himself and a producer's credit. But as for the 2002 original, it is a lighthearted, fun, dumb sword and fantasy film that is honestly the best Conan movie that we've seen since the Arnold Schwarzenegger original. And that's not a unique opinion. Apparently, that's something that's been around since this movie first came out. And I say, if that's good enough for you, and you really like the tasty personality of The Rock, then I'd say check this movie out. Thanks for watching. Please leave likes, dislikes, comments, suggestions, and insults. All are welcome. Thank you.